Good morning, Susanne.
Good morning, Deborah, LeeAnn.
I feel like I've been getting to know this archetype of the wisdom keeper this month, and I'm really excited as we continue bopping around the Gene Keys profile with um, to learn more about these gifts that the wisdom keeper has, bringing ancestral reverence and that wisdom forward. And I am wondering if you'd care to you want to share like what we're going to be talking about today in the radiance.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the radiance of this archetype and her beingness. And this is the 56th gene key, which is known as the divine indulgence. And she in her gifts, she is about enrichment, and her acidic state is all on about intoxication, divine intoxication.
I, I'm loving that one. Every time I listened to the Richard Rudd 64 Ways, his transmission on this key, I just thought, oh yeah. And I also am getting much more aware of my distraction,
Oh,
which
yeah.
helps me to realize, oh, stop, look outside, and that's where the enrichment is. That's what's nourishing. The distraction I always think is going to nourish me, and it doesn't nourish me. um, Years ago I was in the early days of email newsletters and all of that. There was an author I followed, uh, Jennifer Loudon, and she wrote several books. One of them was about a woman's um, comforts, and I forget the title of it, but she talks about shadow comforts and to watch out for those, because we think we're practicing self-care by doing this activity, food, drink, hanging out with this person, and afterwards we're like almost sick from it, like we have an over like you have a hangover after being with certain people or eating certain foods, or as we get more sensitive, I'm really noticing that. So those shadow comforts, I really like that because it ties into this shadow of distractions.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then it's easy uh to be able to understand what enrichment is there, because enrichment, I used to think when they would enrich cereals, breakfast cereals, let me just put all these vitamin A and K and D. And I'm like, that doesn't sound very natural. I used to always wonder, I wouldn't, as a kid, when I would read the cereal boxes, because yes, I was that kind of kid. And I thought that was just ridiculous. Why are we eating foods that they have to put stuff into to
Yeah.
make it healthy for us? But anyway, so that's what I thought of enrichment as being kind of a false additive to stuff to make it better. And now I'm going, no, it's a detraction. It's actually taking away, the energy, the whatever it is that we're doing that's causing us to check out from
From, well, I
life.
think from being, yeah, in life. And the enrichment part is what life is all about. It's about experiencing all of it. And what I think happens for a lot of us is that the distraction plays that role. And until we catch ourselves, that's the art of that discipline, self-discipline, to be able to take ownership of, oh, there it is.
Ooh, there it is. Ooh. Yeah, and I've been really appreciating it now. So instead of what I was doing up until refreshing myself on this gene key, was I would get judgy. Like, really? You think you need to play that game one more time on your phone? I mean, like, what is that doing for you? And now I'm going, Oh, you're just reminding me to check back into life. I'm on it, babe. So it's such a different reframe of that. So anyway, I'm laughing. So,
Yeah.
um, and we get to play with this enrichment gift, um, leading us into intoxication, which is really delicious, literally. Um, in the key, in the pulse of 28, right?
Yeah. And 28 is all about um, moving from the shadow of purposelessness into the gift of totality to the acidic state of immortality.
Okay, and I'm going to need some help here. I think I know this is in your chart somewhere, so if
Yep.
you can help me tease that apart a little bit, and then I'd like to then we can play with how they might fit
Sure.
together.
Richard calls it embracing the dark side. It's
Oh,
being able to dance in the void. Okay. So having, when I know I'm going to say this, I remember when I was a teenager because I'm dancing in it or was dancing a lot in it there. Um, was what am I doing here? And you just are in this void of feeling
purposelessness.
purposelessness, right? And to the point where then you're afraid of living, you're afraid of taking chances, you're afraid of it's kind of repressed, right? Because your life is a little bit hollow because you're like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing, and you don't actually fully embody it and live it. So one of the other things that Richard talks about, and this is Richard Rudd through the Gene Keys, um, is the art of or the fear of dying. You get into that stage, and I was having so many people die around me,
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, or like just teachers. I don't know. Although I will say, it was very interesting at that age for me is that I saw through it. And this is about the ring of illusion. And I saw through it, and I actually saw that I was, I knew that death wasn't
The
fully
final thing. Mm-hmm.
final thing. And I guess that's where I got to see some of the acidic state of like immortality, because I could see that, well, it's the fear of death, but I wasn't witnessing it, but when I saw death around me, I knew they were still alive, but they just weren't in this form. So, and then he talks about the
But a
third.
lot of people go all the way to their deathbed with a fear of death.
Yeah.
They never move beyond that. So go
Well, and
ahead.
that's the third one, which is the fear of actually
Living.
not living, not, it's like that pressure inside you, that you don't fully live your life. Like, I'm missing out. Have I lived my purpose?
Let's go back to that again. Yeah.
So, yeah, the fear of living, the fear of dying, and the fear of not living, like not fully embodying your existence while you're here.
Yeah. And so to me, purposelessness is what most people are striving for. I think that's part of what we work so hard and spin ourselves up and spend so much energy on whatever it is, creating the healthy body, the ideal relationship with our soul, all of those things that we're pushing and striving and trying to do to be on purpose. They're so is there mention anywhere of relaxing into being on purpose and just you already are on purpose?
Exactly. And it's the genius of being alive and holding nothing back. So just letting life live through you as opposed to trying to do anything.
Okay, so if we are going to play with the gifts of totality, I already am, right? And so how does that play with enrichment? Like, it's there all the time for me to live. So
Right.
everything is in its totality. I don't need to go, you know, whatever,
Well,
reach
and
this next milestone in my life to be on purpose.
well, it's recognizing you're a creative being.
By being, I think we measure as humans, and especially as Western society humans, we measure our lives in milestones of doing. I think as I approach my birthday every year, I kind of get to this thing about like, okay, so what have you accomplished this year? And I was like, whoa, what if is that how I'm going to be remembered? Probably not. But who was I? How did I love Susanne more, or John, or my daughters, or how I want to be known in that way? Not that, oh, she created this and she did that. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think what it really comes down to is, have you created more love in the world?
Well, that's
Yeah.
the whole point. I want to be
Right.
remembered as a loving person, not as a, she did this and she visited all the continents and she, that's not.
I mean, there is something about experiencing everything, and I think that's kind of fun.
Well, especially because it enriches me, which allows me to be more in my radiance, which allows me to, extend my light even more. I mean, I get that. Anyway, I'm just playing with us here
Yeah.
because the other thing is to relax back into, and I've been thinking a lot about this. I listened to a coaching session I had done with a client this last week, and in it was the centering in the beginning. And I'm getting ready to re-record, which I do kind of every year, the centering practice I do. And it's funny because I had a whole part in there about our back and about feeling not just the experience of our life at our back, but feeling all that wisdom from our lineage, our ancestors, our culture that's holding us, supporting us. And I thought, oh, that feels good. I forget about that. And so as I was laying in bed having my conversation with the universe in the middle of the night last night, I was like, okay, what ancestral wisdom wants to come through? Because I feel like I'm really listening right now. I'm wide awake. So I'm curious, can we practice with bringing that wisdom forward to support us in our enrichment, to support us in our totality?
Yeah. I mean, it's about being present with every moment that you do have.
And that's typically when I hear grandma's voice or
Yeah.
that stuff comes through.
Yeah.
Not so much when I ask. It tends to be when I'm just quiet and receptive.
Yeah, exactly. When you
Not
can,
on demand. It's not.
when you can hear, yeah, when you're being present in the now moment, and then you hear messages, or
Yeah.
you see things, you see visions of things.
So, we've been traveling around the gene key profile from life's work to evolution to the radiance. Let's talk about the position of this key of enrichment, just because, you know, I want to support us all to embody these gifts and activate that wise wisdom keeper within that we each have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts, ideas, practices, something to share here?
Well, radiance is really about the earth like plane, and about the body, the environment, and your direct relationship to your environment. So, one of the things that in the gene key experience, I'll call it experience because we're ever living it, right? one of the things about like enrichment is how happy are you where you live and work?
Well,
How
that's pretty
how
interesting.
nourishing is that?
Since I'm kicked out of my office right now while we work on it up there.
Yeah.
That is interesting because I feel so different. And the other thing is, it's my calendar. I'm
Mm.
noticing yesterday morning, I got up and completed something that's been hanging over my head for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't seem to get traction on it. And it didn't even take me that long. When I sat down and did it, I was done in 40 minutes. And I thought, what was
Mm.
different? And I think what was different is I didn't have anything on my calendar.
Right.
The whole morning was like this open space of like, creativity was, there was space. And so it is not just physical space, but it's that time,
Yep.
time and space construct that we create for ourselves. And nobody does my calendar but me. I mean, I have nobody to blame,
Right.
you know?
So it really does come down to, in that place, what makes that uh what makes you feel radiant?
Yeah.
What that actually makes me think of work with Danielle Laporte, um, and tapping back into our feelings, and what are we going to do today that where we can then receive those feelings, what makes you feel radiant.
Mm-hmm. And that was really key for me to realize, you know, um, I got up, got dressed right away. We went for a nice walk in the park, came back. I sat down, got my coffee, and it was ba-boom. And I thought, wow, note to self.
Well, and to take it a step further, one of the other questions that pops up is your radiance dependent upon outer conditions?
Well, and then is it like if a star, is shining at night and nobody sees it, is it still shining? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I play with that both ways, and I think it's both and. I think um there's definitely a mindset, and the other thing is I slept what, you know what I mean? Like it was all the pieces were lined up, and that made the space open for me to sit and just create. And I love that. I love that feeling. So
Well,
it's
I'm glad
important.
that you saw it. I mean, you
Yeah.
acknowledged the space in which what lights you up is you created that environment for yourself to feel that you can flourish in that space.
Yeah. So as we're to close, let's just introduce our topic for next time we come together. We're going to be finishing the gene key profile for this light being who actually has been a channeled entity who's a pillar of the School of Light Collective. And we call her the Wisdom Keeper. And her purpose is what we're going to be discussing next week. So we invite you to play with this. And then after that, we'll have an integration session, which is lovely because we talk about how all of those pieces all come together, and then some ways to integrate this energy within us, as well as offer a masterclass on it that you can purchase. So any other thoughts or ideas? Okay. Well, thank you for being with us on this journey. I mean, we've been this morning we were like, okay, do we have a purpose for this? And then we went into that purpose thing, and I can tell that when we play with, we're doing this because of fun, because we want to tap into this energy within us. That is our purpose. And then we just offer to share it and invite you into the energy as well. So till our next time together,
Enjoy.